All right, and welcome to the State of the Game podcast. It is Monday, June 2nd, 2025. I am your host, GT, and we have a very special topic that I want to touch on today. So let's get right into it, and keep in mind to keep it copacetic in the comments as you listen to the commentary. And as always, like, share, and subscribe, all right? To God be the glory at all times. All right, y'all. Let's get it. All right. So what a weekend it has been. What a week this past week it has been. We've been doing a whole lot of work at me and my wife's school with the Edu Project, as well as the Innovation Academy, as well as my father-in-law, my bishop, is having his pastor's anniversary and acknowledgement ceremony going on this Sunday, and we've been basically getting everything together for that as well. So when I tell you, we've been working. it's been work, man. We get off one job to get on to another one, and especially today. That's why I'm so late posting today, because literally from sun up to sundown, I'm still getting it in, man. But we have a good episode today. I want to, first and foremost, before I get into the meat of the episode, I want to talk about the Pacers and the Thunder. We finally have our NBA Finals set. I think it's supposed to start on Thursday. Here we go. Basically, what we would expect from this playoffs this year. The Pacers advanced, as well as the Oklahoma City Thunder. They advanced. So we're basically trying to see, okay, who's going to take the mantle? Who's going to show up and show out for this NBA Finals, man? Early prediction, I would say I would give Indiana 2 games. I think it's going to be 4-2, and I think OKC is going to get their championship. So if I get it right, you heard it here first. That's basically how I'm looking at it. But yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be like a 4-2 series, man. But let's get to the meat of the matter of this episode. Like I said on last week, we're going to be streamlining it, pretty much talking about one topic. So I want to talk about something that has been not necessarily bothering me, but it's been puzzling me for the past decade or so, to be honest. And I'm a huge fan of the fight game, whether it be boxing or UFC. And I just wanted to talk about what the elephant in the room. I know we have various different boxers in various different weight classes that's doing their thing, but we know, it's pretty much common knowledge that when it comes to boxing in this country, in the US, it's a heavyweight sport. Okay, so I want to talk about what's going on with the heavyweight division as far as the U.S. is concerned, as well as the decline in popularity of the UFC. I want to talk about that as well. But let's first start off with boxing. Let's start off with boxing. There was a time where names like Ali, Tyson, Holyfield, and Lennox Lewis, and George Foreman, and Riddick Bowe, and Razor Ruddock, and just various different names dominated not just boxing but the cultural conversation. And in the 2010s, the UFC rose like a tidal wave. But where are we now? That's an interesting question. Where are we now as far as with the popularity of the UFC as well as the heavyweight division of boxing? That's the glamour division. That's the headline. That's the marquee division in boxing. Okay, and we've seen a precipitous drop as far as heavyweights coming from this country. Okay, not saying that the heavyweight division is suffering on a worldwide scale, because of course it's not, and it hasn't. But from the popularity perspective, and from that perspective, when it comes to the U.S. heavyweight boxer, the U.S. heavyweight champion has been few and far between, especially within the past 10, 15 years. Okay, so let's take a look at that. So I recall, the era of dominance, and we can go all the way back into the 60s and 70s with your Joe Louis, your Muhammad Ali's, and your George Foreman's, and your Mike Tyson's, and your Evander Holyfields of the world. Joe Louis is further back, that's like 30s and 40s with World War II and things of that nature. He actually served in World War II. But from there, you had your Rocky Marcianos, and you had your Sonny Listons, and you had your Joe Frazier's come along, as well as Ali. It was just a constant, influx of talent that came from the heavyweight division. Okay. Even some of your lesser known but still prevalent boxers like your Ernie Shavers and your Ken Nortons, you still had those power players in the heavyweight division in the 70s, in the 80s, and also in the 90s, whereas you don't see that as much now. So, as it says, heavyweight boxing was once a national identity marker in the U.S. What does that mean? Basically put, even if you want to go all the way back to your Jack Johnsons and your Dempseys of the world, these were basically the most popular people in the world at one point in time. These people were basically national treasures. Okay, there was a time where Muhammad Ali was the most recognizable face on earth. That's what Time magazine would say, People magazine, and things of that nature. They would basically say that Muhammad Ali was the most recognizable face on earth. That's how big the U.S. American heavyweight and that division was at one point in time. But as we've seen in the, 15, 20 years, there's been a shift, okay? There's been an overseas shift, much like the NBA is going through right now more recently. But once Lennox Lewis came in, he's a British heavyweight. Once he came in and started doing his thing, it led to your Vladimir and your Vitaly Klitschko's, who dominated the scene. I cannot lie to you guys. They dominated the scene for quite a while, okay? And it just got to the point where we had no one that would rise through the ranks that would even be able to challenge them, okay? Then you have Tyson Fury that came in, and at one point he beat one of the Klitschko's to basically win the world title. He went through his turmoil, and he eventually, years later, shook back and won the WBC title from Deontay Wilder. But you also have, up until now, you have your Alexander Usyk. He's from the Ukraine, and he is a very gifted boxer, man. He's actually a transplant, because he was a cruiserweight. Okay, much like Evander Holyfield was. He rose from cruiserweight, and he's basically taken over the heavyweight division. And then you have your Anthony Joshua's of the world. He's also from the UK. He basically, I guess he came after your Lennox Lewis and your Hayes of the world, established his dominance early on as well. But all that's from different countries. None of those people that I just named come from the U.S. That is all your British, your former Russian, your Ukrainian, those areas, and they've basically dominated the scene. They've taken over the scene. Okay. Now, like I said before, you do have in your lower divisions, you do have your Terrence Crawfords, okay? You do have your, Gervonta Davises. You do have your Devin Haney's. You have those. You have the Charlos. You have all of those folks. But like I said, the heavyweight division has been and always will be the glamour division of boxing. So, essentially put, if you have a dominating heavyweight, that is bigger than pretty much any other division in boxing, especially coming from the U.S. Okay, give you a perfect example. You had the in the middleweight division. This was like 80s. You had your four kings. You had your Tommy Hearns. You had your Roberto Duran's. You had Sugar Ray Leonard, as well as Marvelous Marvin Hagler, which just so happens to be one of my favorite boxers, if not my favorite boxer, Marvelous Marvin Hagler. But as good as they were, and as fearless as they was, they nobody ducked anybody. That's another issue. Nobody ducked anybody back then, but just the popularity of a Mike Tyson overshadowed pretty much everything else that was happening in that boxing at the time. Okay? Because he was young, because he was hungry, and because he was a heavyweight. Okay, he took over that division at 19, 20, 21 years old. Okay, so once he took over the division and the style of the way he was fighting, he basically captivated the entire globe. But I venture to say most of that is because of the division he was in. He was in the glamour position, the heavyweight division. Now, let's see what happened to the U.S. heavyweight. I said this for a long time. Once you have all those politics and those different divisions, and there's so many different divisions now. You have your WBC, your IBF, your WBO, your WBA, NABF, you name it, man. They just got all kinds of stuff going on, as well as promotions, different promotions. You have your top ranks, you have your PBC, you have your Golden Boy, you have Mayweather promotions, all those different things. And it seems like no one can get on one accord about anything when it comes to boxing, when it comes to putting the best product out there. And that is a major blow to the sport as a whole. And that's just my opinion. Not only that, but yes, like I said, but like I alluded to before, back then, you had the number one contender in the world, and you had the heavyweight champion of the world, and basically within months, they were fighting each other. You didn't have to wait. Good grief, guys. Good grief. In between Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, and Tyson Fury, we basically had to wait almost a decade to get any one of them, either one of the three, in the ring. And all anybody wanted as a boxing fan, whether you were a casual or whether you were a purist, we just wanted to see Undisputed. For the longest time, we just wanted to see Undisputed. Okay, we just wanted to see it. It really, at that point, it really didn't even matter who won. We just wanted to see. Listen, Anthony Joshua, come across seas, or we'll come to you with Deontay Wilder. Either way it goes, let's figure out who the best is. Same thing with Tyson Fury. It just so happened that Tyson Fury just finally made it up in his mind. You know what? I'm gonna fight him. Because good grief, man. Like I said, it almost took a decade just to get any one of those three in the ring against each other. Okay, and that put a real sour taste in fight fans' mouth for a very long time. Sort of similar to Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather, but on a much lesser scale. Like I said, Mayweather, more popular fighter, bar none. We get it. Undefeated. We get it. Pacquiao, a machine. We get it. Okay? A very gifted boxer. But at the same time, when we're talking about heavyweights, it's a completely different conversation, especially here in the U.S. Okay? So, also, there's another issue that I haven't heard too many people talk about as far as when it comes to producing heavyweight boxers. Well, I look at the rise of the NFL, and I look at the rise of the NBA, and even the rise of, Major League Baseball is still there. They haven't catapulted the way the other two have, but they're still consistent. They're still there. I think a lot of that played into the decline as far as being able to produce heavyweights at the clip that we were producing heavyweights back in the 70s and the 80s. Reason being is because not too many people want to take that sort of punishment or that sort of training or anything on that lines, because they want, basically put, they want to be able to excel in the more popular sports. Okay, what do I mean by that? Would you rather get punched in the head, or would you rather be able to dunk a basketball for the same amount of money? 1 + 1 is 2. Okay, just makes sense, right? Same thing. Okay, if you're talking about football, yes, you can take one match and almost match somebody's NFL contract, but at the same token, NFL in terms of popularity at this point is just skyrocketed past everything else in the market. Okay, the NFL is everywhere now, as well as the NBA. Okay, so that played a big factor into it as well. Case in point, I'll go back to your 90s, where, like I said before, Ken Norton was a boxer in the 70s. Ken Norton Jr., his son, everybody figured that he was going to choose boxing and following his dad's footsteps and the whole 9 yards of that. Guess what? He wound up being a Dallas Cowboy, and he won a couple of Super Bowls with him as well. Okay? That's just how the game has changed and evolved even back then up until now. Okay? So, now, like I said, the one thing, we do have somebody on the come up, Jared Anderson. He's starting to make waves after that crazy knockout of Anthony Joshua a couple of months ago. He's starting to make waves, but like I said, that's just one. Okay? That's just one. When there was a time where literally you had, in the heavyweight division, you had all at the same time, Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, George Foreman, Ernie Shavers, Archie Moore, Sonny Liston, and you name it. We can keep going and going and going. But you had all those American heavyweights on the scene. One just doesn't fit the bill, okay? Just having one, just putting that type of pressure on just one American heavyweight just doesn't match up, okay? So let's talk about the UFC now, okay? Now, this is a mixed bag, kind of, sort of. In the peak era, you had guys like Conor McGregor. Even on the female side, you had Ronda Rousey. You had John Jones, which is my favorite UFC fighter, and you had Khabib Nurmagomedov, who was he was just absolutely dominant while he was fighting. He bowed out, and I don't know if that was a issue with Dana White or an issue with money or whatever the case may have been, but he took his hiatus, and he essentially took his ball and went home. And he has other people under his toolage that are still fighting now, but nothing beats the original. And Khabib was that guy. Okay, if you saw what he did to Conor McGregor, you would understand that he was that guy. But yeah, it's been a strange drop off with the UFC. One thing that could have led to it would be the oversaturation of events. There's so many fight nights, UFC fight nights going on, to where it's just an oversaturation. And then once you combine that with other entities like your Strike Force, I think they're still around. Your Pride FCs, I don't think that's around no more. But just your Bellators and all those types of things. Man, it's just an oversaturation in mixed martial arts, which could pretty much water down the product. Even if it's not UFC, it just waters down the product. Then you talk about inconsistent matchmaking and lack of unified rankings or logic in title shots. There's a thing where in the UFC where, okay, if something happens to a challenger, whether it be for a title or not, you can have a match with the champion, and let's say something happens to the champion too. Okay, you have these interim champions. Like, what is that? Like, okay, you're a champion for now until the real champion shows up. That the interim title thing it takes away from the luster and the prestige of a championship. Okay, so once you take the luster and the prestige away from the championship, pretty soon you're taking it away from the fighters as well. Okay, And another thing is fewer recognizable stars breaking through the post-McGregor era. You even okay, we're talking about UFC, but you almost have to have a WWE type appeal in the fight game. Even with those stars, both boxing and UFC or MMA, it's good to have the talent. It's cool to have the talent, but at the same token, you got to have the charisma, man. You have to be able to sell yourself, okay? To make yourself more marketable to fans as well as sponsors, and that basically boosts your paycheck, so to speak. Okay, you want there's been a lot of discussion going around about the UFC not paying its fighters the way they should. Well, at the same token, a lot of those fighters you barely know. Okay, a lot of those fighters you barely know. So if you're not doing what you have to do, like a lot of the things that Conor McGregor was doing in his prime, well, that's not on Dana White. That's kind of on you. Okay, you have to present yourself as marketable and as popular, you know, to increase your popularity. You know what I'm saying? To basically maximize on your brand, to basically be able to elevate your pay, I guess you would say. Okay, that's another issue with the UFC. Okay, and you know, I think it's a lot to do with, you know, combat sports being in transition as well. That's both with boxing and UFC. We're in transition. You have just things going on, like there was a point in time where and this is not a knock on Jake Paul. This is not a knock on Jake Paul. Actually, he's doing what he's supposed to do. That's what a lot of these athletes, these fighters, don't get. He's selling himself. He's making himself marketable. So he deserves the paydays and the accolades and everything that he's getting, because he's marketing himself. He's selling himself, much like Muhammad Ali did. Okay? He did all of those things. Conor McGregor did all those things. Money Mayweather did all of those things. Okay? Mike Tyson, he did it. It might have been in a kind of like a negative way, but listen, it worked. Even controversy sells. Okay? Controversy sells almost just as much as sex in 2025. So there you go. But yeah, you have to sell yourself, okay? And we're in a transition, and we're seeing a whole lot of different things take the forefront as far as popularity, and when you add that social media element to it, well, you attention spans shorten, and you want to see highlights. Okay, there's a plethora of YouTube channels, TikTok pages, and the whole 9 yards that are geared and dedicated specifically to highlights. Okay, why? Because attention spans have become shorter. Okay, that's another issue when it comes to the fight game. That's actually one of the reasons they're trying to fix baseball in that way. But they suffered for years behind that too. Just people not being able to digest for those types of, you know, matches for that long a period of time and things of that nature. They just want to see the highlights. They just want to see the dunk. They just want to see the touchdown. They just want to see the big hit. They just want to see the knockout. Okay? So, now, in the future, we're going to have to merge entertainment with competition, man. Just like I said, we're going to have to merge entertainment with competition. Hate on Jake Paul. Even when you're talking about WWE, hate on Logan Paul all you want. But they know what works. In this day and age, they get it. And the problem is, they're the only ones that seem to get it. Sometimes you have to be that controversial figure. Sometimes you have to be the one that thinks and moves outside of the box. Okay? So basically, that's what you have to do in this day and age to garner popularity, to raise awareness to your brand, and to basically maximize your brand to get you to the next level when it comes to your finances, okay? So where do we go from here? Well, first of all, like I said, you have to increase that popularity. And you have to be able to become marketable to your key audience. You have to be the one to basically say, hey, here I am, okay? You have to stand out in the crowd, okay? This is a lot of the things that has made Gervonta Davis so successful. These are the things that has made Canelo Alvarez so successful. These are the things that have made even your Devin Haney's and your, just Shakur Stevenson's. These are the things that have made them popular, okay? Just being able to stay out there. Teofimo Lopez is another one. Just stay out there and basically present yourself to the world and market yourself to the world, okay? That just has to be done and translated at the heavyweight level when it comes to boxing. And as far as the UFC is concerned, it has to be done across the board, okay? We need big stars. We need those, those Tito's. We need those Rampage Jacksons. We need those types of people. Israel Adesanya, he did it for a good little minute. I haven't seen him in a while. I think he's on his way back, but he started to tap into that as well. But you need those types of fighters that basically, hey, let me take it a step further to promote my brand and to promote who I am and promote how valuable I am to the UFC or to boxing, whatever the case may be. All right. So here is my final thought for the day. All right. So I want you to think about this phrase that I came up with a couple of days ago. God's blessing doesn't come with a cost. Okay. What do I mean by that? Matter of fact, let me say it again. God's blessing does not come with a cost. So here's what I mean. You get blessed by God. You come across an opportunity or anything happens your way that might be, good or whatever the case may be. And sure, all things well and considered, you're blessed. Okay. But if it comes at the cost of somebody else, or if it causes somebody else turmoil or pain or being downtrodden or anything else of that nature, you might want to question who blessed you. Okay? You might want to question it. You might want to take a look at that. Okay? God's blessings versus the world's deals. Okay? The world gives with strings attached. All right? A loan comes with interest. A gift often comes with expectation. And favor is extended only to the influential. But that's not so with God. Okay? So, Proverbs 10:22 says, "The blessing of the Lord, it maketh rich, and he added no sorrow with it." Okay? That's Proverbs 10:22. God doesn't give you a blessing that traps you. He doesn't bless you with peace and then chain you with anxiety. He doesn't give you joy only to demand that you perform to keep it. His blessings are pure, complete, and free of manipulation. That's all we have for this week, man. I will be on all the socials all week long, as I usually do, giving you reels and different posts and things like that, to basically keep you up to date with everything else that's going on in the world. This is GT. This is the State of the Game Podcast. I thank you guys for all of your support. Shout out to all the new subscribers and the new followers and the new supporters, man. Thank all of y'all, okay? If you have an opinion about anything I talked about, man, leave it in the comments, man. Tell me what you think about boxing. Tell me what you think about the UFC. Tell me what you think could fix everything moving forward with both of those sports, all right? Because if you are a fight fan like I am, you want to see both of them succeed. All right, y'all. Y'all take it easy. This is State of Game Podcast. Like, share, and subscribe, y'all. Peace out.